Hey there, hobby homesteaders. Welcome back to Peek's Peak. Today, we're working on the Kubota. I've got a BX23S here that has no hydrostatic transmission fan. In this video, I'm going to share with you what it takes to change out this HST fan. The part itself is very inexpensive, but the labor can be ridiculous from what I've heard. But we're gonna use a trick that we found on Tyler Koehn's channel on YouTube, and I believe that's a shortcut that's gonna save us all kinds of time, so we'll share that with you, and I'm gonna try to remember to link his video in the description just to give him credit for this little tip that I found on his channel. So, to share with you guys the little background story on this whole process, you know, the hydrostatic transmission fan is something that really I didn't pay any attention to. I know everybody's all about their expanded undercarriage protection and all of that, but until lately I never really bothered to investigate why. I finished up mowing my yard the other day and went out back to kind of hose the tractor off because it had it pretty muddy, and I noticed a fair amount of steam coming from the hydraulic system in the back, and I felt it and it was pretty warm, and I thought, man, that's kind of wild that it gets that warm. And I pulled it in the garage here because I had done a little bit of search and I found that it's very easy to break the fins off of these fans on this. And I pulled it in the garage here and crawled under it, and sure enough, I have a little plastic circle with no fins whatsoever. And I have no idea how long it's been that way. Now, I'll tell you, if you're somebody who's done this, it might give you a little bit of peace of mind to know that it's had to have been this way for a while, and I've not had any adverse effects so far. Now, what kind of damage might have been done to it because of this, I probably will never know. If I do end up having any kind of problems, I do have the Kubota insurance on the tractor, so hopefully they would follow through and take care of me. But the only thing I can remember is, I do remember early on when I bought this tractor, doing some trail clearing and brush clearing, and I heard something get up into the fan, and I actually thought it was rubbing on the drive shaft underneath. So I backed off of it and went on about my business. And that's the only time I can remember getting into something that would have broken that fan. And if that's the case, then I ran it for a long time with no fins on that fan. So this is a major screw up on my part in terms of not catching it sooner. But regardless, we are where we are. As soon as I discovered this, I haven't used the tractor anymore until I could pick up the parts and go ahead and get this changed out. I don't want to continue to use it that way, and I wouldn't recommend that you do either. Hopefully this will be something that will help you guys out and make this a little bit easier job to change out, and we're about to find out just how hard it is. We're going to dig in there and find out. I picked up the replacement fan from my local Kubota dealer, Davis Equipment in Ashland, Kentucky. They had it in stock, and it cost me, I think with tax, it was 17 bucks. So no big deal. Now, in the words of the guy at the part counter, he said, "Oh, that's surprisingly cheap, but it looks like a nightmare to change." And I was like, yeah, thanks for the information there. But anyway, we'll find out just how bad it is as we get into this. Now, from Koehn's video, he measured out and said at about 2.5 inches over here, he drilled a 1-inch hole right here so he could drop an extension and a 12mm socket through there to take the clamp bolt loose that holds this fan on. So once we get to that part, we're going to drill that. I'm going to take the drive shaft loose first. But because of the supplies I have on hand, I'm going to be drilling a 7/8 inch hole because I have that size of a hole saw. And I picked up this set of grommets, which has 7/8 inch grommets, so that I can plug the hole back when I'm finished. We're gonna try that method and see how that works out. I have a lift here in my garage, but I have tested these arms, and I can pick the tractor up off of the ground, but the arms have to be so close together that I do not feel like it is stable enough that I wanna stand underneath it with it up in the air. So I'm not going to do that. I am going to work on it just like this. I've got it pulled up on ramps in the back, use the bucket to lift the front end up in the air and throw some jack stands under it. That gives me plenty of room to work. I can get a creeper, slide under there, and just knock this out. So that's the way I'm going to do this. Now, there's a good shot of the fan, and you can see this is the guard. The stick can go right up through here and knock the fins off of the fan, and you would never be any the wiser. So you want to keep an eye out for that. First thing we're going to do is take this shield off of here, which is just these bolts on the side here. Easy enough. So we're going to pull that loose, get it out of the way. The next thing we've got to do is take the drive shaft loose, which it's not the drive shaft, it's the prop shaft, I'm sorry. We'll take the prop shaft loose from the engine, which disconnects right here, and we take this boot back, and there is a snap ring right up inside there. So we'll take that snap ring loose, and then this comes out with some ball bearings on it and all of that good stuff. So that'll probably make a decent little mess there. But anyway, we'll see what we got there. And then we have the same setup back here. We have to take that loose. So I'll try to show you guys as we go along. Okay, so you are taking this off of the back of the engine, and this is your tail shaft to your the end shaft for your prop shaft, and there are 4 ball bearings that will fall out, so you want to gather those up and put them in there. We'll clean them up and re-grease everything when we get ready to put it back together. And then we have to take this end loose here. Now what I'm going to try first is seeing if I can't without taking that snap ring off, because I had so much trouble with the snap ring on the front. I think I'm gonna go ahead and pop or drill my hole and try to take that shaft loose from the hydrostat so that I can slide it off of that shaft if it will come, and it probably won't. In fact, looking at it, it may be a waste of time. I may just try to get my snap ring off of there. We'll see how it goes. So I used another trick out of old Travis's book and used the plastic off of my fan packaging and taped it around this socket because I wanted to be able to pull this bolt up out of the hole. Now, I got a confession to make. I drilled my hole wrong. Now, I drilled it not quite as far over as Travis said to drill it, because I thought that I was eyeballing it and had it right. But I also drilled a smaller hole, so it didn't work. And this is what it's going to look like finished. But I drilled my hole, and this lined up perfectly for me with the fins and what I needed to do. If you put that right up against the shaft at 3.5 inches, and that really worked out just right for me to get the bolt out of there. So you make your own judgment call on that. You may not want 2 holes in your tractor like I did in mine. I am trying something else different here, which probably won't work, but rather than taking that snap ring off, I was gonna see if this would come out of there, and it does enough that I can get this fan off of there, because my snap ring pliers are junk. So I would rather have a little tight space here to switch out this fan than have to fool with that snap ring there. So you are able to get the shaft off of there like this. So we manage that. And what we want to do is make sure we line up this hole here before, like we had it before, so that when we go back, we can put it back where it was. So I'm gonna go get my ratchet and my 12 mil, take this off there. All right, now I managed to get that fan on without taking this back snap ring off and pulling that piece out of there. Mainly because my snap ring pliers are garbage and I had trouble getting the front snap ring off and I just didn't want to fool with it. It was very tight, but I did manage to do it. So that's in. Now we gotta go back up top and put our bolt in. We're going to need another piece of plastic to hold the bolt in place. So we just put it in there like that. And that holds this bolt in so that we can get it down in there without it falling out of the socket. It's kind of like the old spark plug sockets. And I see my hole and I need to turn it back this way just a hair. All right, I think I can show you. It does feel like it's snugged up. That's why I'm doing it by hand. I don't want to cross thread it. So I threaded it all the way in by hand there, so we're good there. Snug that up. Let's see if my socket comes back with it. It did. All right, let's put us another grommet in here. It's that one. All right, now we got to go back under, put the rest of it together. All right, guys, we got her all put back together. Really, it wasn't nearly as bad a job as everyone has made it out to be. I had a little bit of a hard time getting those bolts back in that fan and a little bit of a hard time getting the snap ring out because my snap ring pliers are garbage. But I can tell you that Koehn's way of drilling the hole up top here is by far the easiest way to leave it looking relatively stock, but still gain access without taking the fenders and everything off. I don't even know what you'd get into by trying to do that, but yeah, so we got the job done, and you know, I think it's probably time to start looking into protecting that fan so that we don't have to do it again, because it was a pain and it took me a little over an hour and a half. I've got dirt in my eyes, I gotta get cleaned out. Changing out this hydrostatic transmission fan took me right at an hour and a half, and that includes taking time to adjust the camera and try to get some camera angles and that sort of thing. Plus, struggling with fitting the fan up in there because I didn't take it all the way apart like a lot of people do when they change this. All that being said, I wouldn't be afraid to tackle this job on your own. If you're mechanically inclined and you've got decent hand tools, you can tackle this job. I would recommend a really good set of snap ring pliers because those are strong snap rings on there, and mine just weren't cutting it. They were a Crescent brand that have interchangeable tips that I picked up at Lowe's for like 30 bucks when I had an air conditioner to replace on a car. And they barely got me through that job, so they really just aren't very good. I'm gonna try something else next time. I hope this helps you out if you run into this problem, and I wanna warn everybody to make sure that you slide under your tractor and take a look at that fan. We don't want to do damage to the transmission by running it too hot. Hopefully I haven't done that. And I mean, everything seems to work like it's supposed to, so I don't think we've got any major issues here, but We just kind of want to take care of it so that it'll last me a long time. These are tough tractors. I don't blame Kubota for the fan incident because, you know, I push a lot of brush and I'm pretty rough with it. And I knew that they made some protection for underneath and I hadn't put anything on there yet. So you may be seeing some of that in an upcoming video before long. All right, guys, I waited until the end to do this part because I wanted to be able to tell you guys what tools it took me to do this project. So the very first thing that I did was use a couple of 14mm wrenches to take that skid plate off of there, the kind of fan guard that comes stock on the tractor. The next thing you're going to need is when you pull those boots back, you need a good pair of snap ring pliers to take the snap ring off of that shaft so that you can slide it out and get those ball bearings out and out of the way. It gives you some room to move. Once you get that loose and you're going to take the mounting plate, I don't know what you call that, but the part that's bolted to the engine is 12mm bolts. So you will need some type of bar to hold the engine from turning while you take those bolts out. And I found a ratchet wrench works really good to get up in there because you don't have a lot of room. You can't get a ratchet and socket up in there. So 12mm for that. And then I just used a little motorcycle tire changer tool to hold the engine. Of course, I needed a couple of ratchets, a 1/4 inch drive and a 3/8 inch drive ratchet. I used the 1/4 inch drive ratchet and a 12mm socket to reach up in there and take those bolts out of the fan once I got it loose. This is what's left of my old fan, and I was able to get this 1/4 inch drive ratchet up in there and have enough room to move to get those loose. I also, because I couldn't find my 6.3/8 drive 12mm socket for some reason, I used the 1/4 inch drive and converted it to do this. But you'll need a 12mm socket, some extensions, and a little bit of plastic to shove in there to hold your bolt in place. Now guys, I want to give credit where credit is due. This method for drilling the hole up top and the little trick with the plastic in the socket, I learned from Tyler Koehn's video, and he has a great video on this process. So if you're preparing yourself to do it and you haven't seen his, go over and watch his too. Hopefully between the information that you can find on YouTube, you can gather enough tricks to where you can accomplish this on your own. I know this is not a cheap fix at the dealership, but I was able to fix this for a total of $25. $17 for the fan and like $8 for an assortment of grommets here. And I've of course got a whole bunch left over for any kind of other cool projects I've got going. I used my drill with a 7/8 inch hole saw, and then for a couple of things like taking the fuel filters and lines loose so I could get them loose to move them out of the way, I used my impact. But for the most part, you can't get an impact up in there very well to do a lot of this. So these are the things that you're going to need on hand in order to do this project. I made sure to grease up those ball bearings. I only took out the one end, so I cleaned those balls, and then I put some grease on all 4 of them, put them back in there. So that's the process in a nutshell, and these are the tools you're gonna need to do it. So if you got all this stuff together, go ahead and give it a shot. This is definitely something you can do on your own, save yourself a lot of money. Well guys, that's just about gonna do it for projects in the shop today. I've got a lot of cleaning up to do. My floors are filthy, but I'm also in the middle of tearing down this Volkswagen engine. I'm gonna rebuild it, so we'll be sharing some of that along the way. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video today. Thank y'all for watching. Y'all have a good day.